What's up guys, Nintenjoel here once again, and I've got a pretty unusual video for you, and it's one that's kind of been requested by a couple viewers of mine, and I'm just going to be talking to you guys about how I got into retro gaming, and I'm going to have a guest on the show too, and we're just going to kind of go back and forth with our videos, and we're going to tell you a little bit about our gaming history. The other person that's going to be joining me is Jack, and he is really awesome, really cool personality, and he's got some pretty cool stories. So, first of all, I'm just going to talk to you guys about when I very first started retro gaming. I have really old memories from when I was a really little kid, and the first gaming memories I have were from when I was about 3, and I played Hubert in the arcade, and yeah, I had to like stand on a little stool if I remember correctly, and I played a few games on an Atari. I think at one point my parents actually had like an Atari 2600, and we must have, because I seem to remember playing Atari upstairs and playing like Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. Oh, and we had like Missile Command and Defender. I don't know what happened to that old Atari. We must have got rid of it when I was really young, because by the time I moved to the Bay Area in California, we didn't have an Atari anymore, and I didn't have a game system for a few years. So that was my early gaming memories, was just kind of Atari stuff, a couple little arcade games. I do remember playing Spy Hunter when it first came out, but I don't remember exactly what year that was or anything like that. But the real clear memories come when I moved to Pacifica, California. And I had a friend that lived behind me. His name was Jason, and he needed money for something. He was doing something, and he wanted to get rid of his Nintendo to me, and he had a bunch of games. And he ended up selling, I still remember, my mom made me use my own money. She's like, you could use your birthday money for it, or you could use whatever. And I bought my own game system, and I paid $30 for this Nintendo, and probably 11 or 12 games. There were games like Bayou Billy in there, and Commando, and Ultima Exodus, and one of the greatest things that was in there is this right here. Legend of Zelda, the first Legend of Zelda. This is my original copy, and it's, to be honest, one of the cleanest copies I've ever seen of this game. I have no idea how I kept this clean. I'm pretty OCD, but how it survived this long in such good shape, I have no idea. But yeah, Legend of Zelda Link to the Past. Legend of Zelda, the first one, is just, it was so immersive, and it was this game where you could just go anywhere, and you just had to figure things out. And the instruction book was helpful, and you'd get hints from Nintendo Power or your friend down the street. And yeah, it was just an interesting game, and it was so exploratory. Another game that was like that was Metroid, but I didn't get into Metroid until a little bit later. I had a friend that played Metroid, or actually it was his dad that played Metroid, and I got really into that dark world. But another game that was in that bundle of my first Nintendo games was another one I spent a lot of time with, and that is the first Final Fantasy. And this is really where my Dragon Warrior. This is where my Final Fantasy and RPG love comes from. I don't know why I was going to say Dragon Warrior. Final Fantasy is an amazing RPG. It's so good. It's so immersive. It's a world that you feel compelled to visit over and over again. And it's a bit of nostalgia from my past that I can never let go of. Final Fantasy is just one of the greatest games ever made, in my opinion. And the remake, Dawn of Souls on Game Boy Advance, is awesome, and the remake on PSP is amazing as well. Any way you slice it, Final Fantasy I is still a great RPG that, in my opinion, holds up to this day. There's one more game from the Nintendo era, and then I'm going to pass it off to Jack for a little while. But the last game I have for you from the Nintendo era that I really put just hours and hours into, probably the most I've put into any game ever in my life, is probably why I said Dragon Warrior earlier, is Dragon Warrior 4. Dragon Warrior 4 is an amazing game and is often overlooked because of the third game being such a great game, but in my opinion, Dragon Warrior 4 brought some really fresh ideas to the table, and just was an innovative game with a lot of elements that you wouldn't really see in RPGs. The chapter system was really inventive and just really cool, and a lot of people knock it, but those are the same people that haven't finished to the last chapter where it comes all together, you know what I mean? So yeah, Dragon Warrior 4 I used to rent from this video store that my dad called the Video Closet. It was actually called Video World, but we called it Video Closet because it was so freaking tiny. And yeah, I rented that game for months on end. I would just go back every week and just rent it over and over and over. And never beat it as a kid. I'm proud to say I just beat it fairly recently. It was last year, actually. But yeah, that's my beginnings to Nintendo era. And there are definitely more stories of the Nintendo era. I used to play Mario 1 with my sister at my parents' work on a tiny black and white TV like this big. And that was a blast, and you know, there was plenty of other games that I played, but those were the Nintendo kind of era days. I also forgot to mention I did play a Sega Master System pretty young as well, but yeah, it was mostly the Nintendo that I played. So anyways, let's hear what Jack has to say about his earliest gaming memories, and go!
Joel, this video is not easy for me to make. It really wasn't. I think back to my childhood and it's such a blur, and like, I just can't put it in chronological order, man. I think I got it narrowed down though, like my earliest memory. I was 3 or 4 years old, man. And I'm playing Link to the Past on SNES in my basement, you know, 3 or 4 years old. I can't read. I'm just going around and talking to every villager, figure out how to swing the sword and stuff. You know what I mean? Eventually you get to Kariko Village or Kariko Village, however you want to say it. And you talk to this, I'm talking to everybody there. Keep in mind, the music is uplifting and just great. And I'm mind blown that they make something where you can, it's like a life in a life. I just felt like I was... So I'm walking around, eventually I get to this lady, alright? And Link's a fugitive, you know, at this point. He's a wanted man. You get to this girl and you talk to her, and she narcs you out, bro. When the music flips, I fucking lost it, dude. I got so scared. It's a wonder I ever played video games again. Like, I'd shut it off and just run up the stairs. And I'm like, oh my god, what just fucking happened, dude? Like, you gotta understand, I had just turned 4 years old. Like, I'm not even totally sure. You know, just turned 4 years old though. I couldn't even read. I had played for hours just figuring it out. You know what I mean? And I'd also not been exposed to like a lot of like violence and anger and stuff yet. And just something about talking to her and her, like the music changing, and I just thought I did something wrong. You know what I mean? Because I was already doing something by playing with the roommate's Super Nintendo, that I was already doing something I shouldn't have been doing. So like it was just, I was on edge and everything. I don't know.
That's the coolest fucking story I've ever heard in my entire life. That's insane. Can I hear it again?
Wow, Jack, Link to the Past. That is a really, really good game that holds a lot of nostalgic value for me as well. When I first bought my Super Nintendo, in fact, it came with Link to the Past and Final Fantasy VII, and boy, those are, I mean, what more could you ask for? You really couldn't ask for anything more. It also came to box, but I don't actually know what happened to my Super Nintendo box through the years. This one I have on the shelf is not my original. But yeah, Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, the best story I have for you for that is actually not my own. Before my nephew was able to read, he sat down and decided that he was going to play Link to the Past without anybody helping him, and he figured out how to beat this freaking game. And me and my sister and my brother-in-law were just amazed when he finally ran to us and showed us the last screen and was like, I begin! We were just like, what? We had seen him progress through this game kind of slowly at first, and then we just kind of stopped really paying attention, I guess. So we figured he didn't know what he was doing. He was just running around. We never realized that he was actually getting really far into the game and actually had managed to make it to the end without reading. I have no idea how he managed to do this. Legend of Zelda is not really the easiest game even when you can read. I mean, it's not hard, but it's at the same time you have to run around a lot and you have to figure out a lot of puzzles. I don't think he got every item or everything like that, or all the hearts or anything like that, but yeah, he actually managed to beat it, and that's a crazy, crazy thing. My Super Nintendo memories, though, are like this golden years era where I was still living in Pacifica, California, in the Bay Area, and I had friends across the street, and I had friends way up on the hill, same street as me, but it was way up the hill. And the friends across the street got a Super Nintendo, and of course, what came with it? Mario World. Now, I fucking love Mario World. You know, I may not talk about this game a lot, and it may get kind of overlooked on a lot of people's lists and things that people talk about, but truly, Mario World is honestly one of the greatest games ever made. It would definitely be in my top 10 Super Nintendo list. It would be above Mario 1, 2, and 3, in my opinion. It is definitely one of the greatest games ever made, and it had a huge, huge impact on me. I finally beat it when I moved to Oregon, and I moved to North Bend, Oregon on the coast, and me and a friend actually beat it together. And I was really freaking proud, and I was so stoked on the last boss, and just, it was a really good time. I had a lot of good memories with Mario World from teenage years up to adult years, and still to this day. And it's actually my girlfriend's favorite game in the world, so it means a lot to me. Second game that I played a lot when I was in Pacifica during that era was with the people up the street from me. They were playing Mario Kart a lot, and oh my god, I remember just sitting in their room and just listening to that opening music and just being like, fuck, how does it get any better than this? How could it get better? We were playing 2 players, and it was just like, you could battle each other, you could race each other, you know, you can get pissed off at each other, you could high-five each other. It was so much freaking fun. And in addition to that, the friends across the street, this 2-player game, Contra 3: The Alien Wars. Jesus Christ, dude, this game is immensely dark for its time. It's really engaging and just hard to put down. It's an amazing game with just awesome graphics. The graphical capabilities of the Super Nintendo when it came out and the musical capabilities of it were just staggering. It was mind-blowing. I went across the street and was just like, what the hell is this? It was such a step up from the Nintendo. And that's the thing about the Super Nintendo. It was a legendary step up that has never been accomplished before. There's never been a system to climb on top of another system and just say, bam, I am the fucking king. And Super Nintendo was that king, and it holds my greatest gaming memories. But yeah, that's my Super Nintendo era stuff and my Link to the Past story. So let's take it back to you, Jack.
Some of the other games I was playing outside of Link to the Past, you know, later once I was even good at getting good at games. You know, you had the 3 Super Marios: Super Mario All-Star, Super Mario World, and Super Mario Kart. Man, Super Mario Kart, that was just in every house of America. It seemed like to me, all the kids my age, like, and of course you had F-Zero and stuff. I didn't play F-Zero a whole lot back then.
Don't worry, dude. Neither did I.
It was Super Mario Kart. I remember I would just leave my Super Nintendo on all day. I would pick up the controller, just play it. And I hung out in my room all day. I'd play, and I also played a lot with action figures, right? So some of the fondest memories I have are just playing with like my Ninja Turtle figures and stuff, and just having after you finish a race in Super Mario Kart, just having that theme song. And I also played a lot with action figures, right? So of my, you know, early childhood. A couple of the other games I remember playing real well. I just kind of go through like a list. Kirby Superstar, I would beat that like every single day. You know, easiest game ever. Super Turrican, but another game that I would beat every single day was Metal Warriors, man. That was the best game. That was one of the best damn games I had ever played at that time. It really, and it's still really good. But I remember picking it up, and I remember I got it brand new at Trading Zone, and it's so crazy to think about because you go when you went in there and there are a wall of Super Nintendo games, the whole entire top row was boxed Metal Warriors. And it's not like, it's so crazy to think about because, you know, with the price it's at, I'm not gonna get that game tomorrow or anything, and you know, it's just such a shame. It's kind of like in instances like that, you know, I get back into this. I want to get that game again, and it's like, damn, man, like, what a shame.
Yeah, man, that whole thing with the Metal Warriors thing is something that it's kind of a sore subject for me. I'll probably do a video at some point about high prices and why they are that way, because a lot of times prices in games are just kind of, it's just unnecessary. People are willing to buy things at really high prices, and of course people are willing to make money selling games at high prices. But yeah, Metal Warriors is a really good example. Another good example too, I know one of the YouTubers I watched, can't remember who exactly, was talking about how common Earthbound was back in the day. They couldn't sell that game fast enough, so there was literally the whole big box versions of Earthbound with the guide and everything, and they were, you know, clearance for like 10, 15 bucks. I think it was the Happy Console Gamer talking about that. But yeah, it is kind of a shame, the whole Metal Warriors, Earthbound, Evo, you know, some of those games that aren't even that rare, like Chrono Trigger or, you know, Secret of Mana. They're not rare by any stretch of the imagination, but they are definitely going up in price just due to people being able to sell them at that price and demand. So yeah, that does kind of suck. But anyways, moving on to gaming memories. Aside from the Super Nintendo, I know you're giving a lot of love to the Super Nintendo, and it is one of my favorite systems. But I do have to mention the PlayStation 1. I really got into the PlayStation 1, and it was one of the last consoles I got into before this gap in my life where I just missed out on a lot of video games. I missed out on the N64, I missed out on the GameCube, I missed out on the Dreamcast, I missed out on the PS2, all those systems. And I was more focused on music, and I'd moved a lot and stuff, and I was working different jobs, and just a lot of stuff going on in my life, but mainly music was happening. And but before that, you know, when I was about, I'd say about 18 years old, a couple of friends of mine ended up showing me a PlayStation and some really, really good games. And the cheesy games that I got into first, I say cheesy, some of them are still really good, but the kind of cheesier games that I got into first were like Courier Crisis, where you're a dude delivering stuff on a bike, and you can like upgrade your bike, and you go bunny hopping through the city, causing terror and panic. That's a fun one. And I played Resident Evil, actually. You know what? Actually, I take that back. I did not play Resident Evil. That was one of the games that I just enjoyed watching my friends play. And I never really got into Resident Evil for some reason, but I really did enjoy watching them play that first Resident Evil. It was a totally different experience back then. And other games that I got into real early, Blazing Dragons is a real weird one. I've talked about it before in videos. It's a point-and-click adventure, and it's got the voice acting of Terry Gilliam and Cheech Marin, and just, you know, some really cool actors, and it's just this weird point-and-click game about dragons, and it's freaking amazing. Love that game. But the two games that really... Oh, wait. Also, Need for Speed 3. Oh my god, I played Need for Speed 3, Hot Pursuit, forever. We played that game for days and days and days. It was crazy how much hours we put into that. But anyways, the two main games that really got me to buy a PlayStation 1 were, of course, Castlevania Symphony of Night. My friend Charlie got that game, and, you know, I just enjoyed watching him play it so much. And then when I got my own copy, I just thought it was the greatest game ever made. And to this day, I still think Castlevania Symphony of the Night is one of the greatest games ever made. The soundtrack, the game mechanics, having RPG mechanics, just that whole Metroidvania style just influenced me a lot, and really influenced me later on with the like Game Boy Advance games, you know, like Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission, and then the Castlevania games that were on Game Boy Advance too were just mind-blowing. But the other PlayStation game that really got me going was Final Fantasy VII. I mean, who can talk about early PlayStation 1 days without mentioning that game? If you're not going to mention it, then you're obviously trying not to mention it. It was a huge part of the PlayStation. The PlayStation wouldn't have gotten to where it was without Final Fantasy VII. And it was all due to, you know, Nintendo kind of screwing up and losing the licensing for Final Fantasy. They didn't want Final Fantasy to be made by Nintendo anymore. They decided to go with Sony, and man, did that ever change the game. That one game completely changed the face of video games, because now it was a whole other playing field. It wasn't just Sega, it wasn't just Nintendo now, or dying Atari. Now there was this newcomer, it was PlayStation, and damn, it really influenced me, man. There were so many great games for the PlayStation. I could go on about that forever, but yeah, I also played a lot of action figures.
Oh, action figures? I hate action figures.
Holy shit, guys. You know what god-awful game that I played for hours and hours and hours when I was young was Home Alone Lost in New York. I played the first and second levels of that game days. There must have been days playtime because I loved that movie. Like if you were a kid back then, you loved those movies. Like you did. Don't deny it. We all did, man. And to have the game, I was just so excited. I got it for Christmas. Again, like 4 years old. And dude, I wanted to like it so bad. It was just like fucking sucked. The game just sucked, dude. All right, so a couple other games that I have to mention are Mega Man 7 and Mega Man X. These were two games that everybody hopefully played them back then for Super Nintendo. But for me, this is one of the things that kind of got me feeling like I was a hardcore gamer and got me a little cocky and stuff. Because a lot of your friends would have Mega Man X. And once you knew the order to beat the bosses and do the stages or whatever, and kind of have that strategy, it makes it easier on you. You just felt like you had the power, you know what I mean? And I could not complete this video because I spent so many hours playing Mega Man. Like, you know, and remember the little Lego guys? You'd have the little Lego men. I would take their hands out of their, me and a buddy of mine, I remember always taking their hands out of their arm piece so it was just a hole. And we were playing Mega Man even when we weren't playing Mega Man. Yeah.
I love Mega Man X!
Man, you know, one of the things that I do miss the most about those days was the blockbusters, the Hollywood videos. We had a Gabletown and Farm Fresh. They had their own franchised whatever. They had a Farm Fresh. They did all their renting. I don't know if all Farm Freshes did. I just remember if you were good and, you know, maybe it's pizza night on Friday and my family would go get like 2 games for the weekend or whatever. And I just miss that whole experience. You hear everybody talk about it. I'm saying it too. But wasn't that just part of it? Wasn't that just part of the whole experience? Even like the times when you get the game, because there were games, all you could do is read the back of the box and like look at the pictures and, you know, hope for the best when you get home. And, you know, be like, oh man, this game sucks. Even the disappointing times, like it was just good. And I miss all that. I really do. One of the games that changed my whole entire perception on video games was Super Metroid, man. Super Metroid. I remember I spent a lot of time with my cousins when I was younger. He had the game. I didn't have the game. But I played it. He let me borrow it whenever I want. I could never get past Lower Brinstar. And as a result, I remember I would get stuck in Lower Brinstar in that music, oh my god, I get goosebumps, dude. Like, that's my favorite song in the game, probably. I don't know. Probably, maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, I would have that, just like Super Mario Kart. I remember that music playing, and I would go and do something else, play with action figures or whatever. And that music would creep me out, like, deeply. Like, it would creep me out and scare me and stuff. And, like, I remember being, like, aware, like, whoa, this is a game. This is a video game. And, like, awesome. I've talked a lot about Super Nintendo. I could go into, like, PlayStation 1 and N64. But those aren't my earliest gaming memories. It's just such an interesting topic, though. I love it. And you know, I really appreciate you having me on this collaboration, man. You know, and for all the viewers that are checking this video out, and if you like what I had to say, go ahead and check out my channel. It's LGS. I do pick up videos and just discussion stuff like what you saw here, and a couple rants. I have a defending Final Fantasy VII rant. I'm proud of that one. But yeah, Joel, thanks for having me on here and doing this. I had a lot of fun.
You bring up two things very, very close to my heart, and one of those is Super Metroid. Super Metroid was a very influential game on me, but that was one of the few games that I didn't see other people playing. I got that game independently and played that game by myself, and just had a blast with it. It's such a dark atmosphere, and almost a suffocating need to finish the game. Like, you got to get out of these caverns at some point. You got to be able to get the hell off this planet. There's just this need to finish it, and it caused me to want to beat that game over and over. I don't beat a lot of games over and over. There are definitely a few, but Super Metroid's probably one of the games I've beaten the most amount of times. That and Metroid 2 for Game Boy, another freaking great old school game that I played a lot in my childhood. The other thing that you brought up that really kind of hits home with me is Blockbuster and renting games. Now, I didn't really rent games from Blockbuster necessarily, or the place that you were talking about. I'm not really familiar with it, but I did rent games from a little place in Pacifica, California during the Nintendo days, and I've talked about it before in my videos. My dad used to call it the video closet because it was so small, but it was actually called Video World. And I rented some stinkers there, and I rented some real fucking winners, some of my favorite games ever at the Video Closet. The Video Closet had such turds as Total Recall. I remember renting that one time and being like, this game's gonna kick ass. I love the movie, love that Arnold flick, and then I took it home and was just sorely disappointed. It was really hard, and the graphics sucked, and it just pretty much everything about it sucked. So it was one of the few games I used the Game Genie on, and actually ended up going to the end of the game and being invincible or something like that, just so I could beat it, just so I could have the satisfaction of doing something on that fucking pile of crap. And then there were winners at the Video Closet. There was Dragon Warrior 4. I talk about that in my videos all the time. One of the greatest games ever made, in my opinion. And yeah, you just can't do that anymore. You can't rent awesome games, and at least not the old school games. You can't just rent them and take them home and try them out. And you know, it's funny. The backs of boxes were pretty much all we had to go on. And sometimes they led you to pretty shitty rentals, and sometimes they led you to gold. You just never knew. That was kind of half the fun of it, you know what I mean? Sometimes my friends had awesome games that they rented, and sometimes they had fucking turds. So, yeah, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you doing the video as well. It's really cool to get somebody else's perspective on how they started gaming and collecting and stuff. I know I went a little off topic, as not so much as my early stuff. I only covered that a little bit, but there's been a lot of weird periods of time for me when I haven't gamed as much, such as the Nintendo 64, GameCube, PlayStation 2 days. So it's almost like I have this big chunk of memories, this, childhood to teen and very young adult that I consider my early gaming memories. And then after that, it was quite a bit later that I got back into gaming. It was probably a good, I don't know, 7, 8 years probably. But I eventually got a PS2 just for Dragon Quest VIII, and eventually got into the Game Boy Advance, which I mentioned because I had to have those Metroids and those Castlevanias, and it's just kind of evolved from there. And I don't know what the future holds for gaming, man. I don't think it's ever going to get to those glory heydays of retro gaming with beautiful sprites and orchestrated music that had to be done with such limited software. It's really crazy that they were able to accomplish so much, such detailed stories and such memories. There's just so much to those games, and these days games are just kind of slapped together. You have to buy, download content to get additional shit, and the endings suck, and don't get me wrong, some Nintendo endings suck, but fuck, at least they made you work for it. Games these days are all fucking easy too, so It's just a whole different animal. But yeah, once again, I appreciate it very much, Jack. Everybody check out LGS's channel. Really good channel. Definitely check out his episode, and I'm going to link it in the description. He's got an episode where he talks about Final Fantasy VII, and he just defends Final Fantasy VII against all the haters and trolls. So yeah, check out his channel, subscribe, please, that'd be awesome. And if you like this video, please comment, like, subscribe. It's down there, it's red, it says subscribe. That'd be freaking amazing. We really appreciate you watching. This video took quite a bit of time, a lot of effort to make, so I hope you guys liked it. Thank you very, very much for watching. Thank you, Jack from LGS, very much for participating, and keep rocking the retro games, guys.